Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations Around the Table. In this episode, we're going to be talking about all things project management, from insights to best practices. And we have the one and only Abby here to join us and definitely give us more insight, because I think you're just a force. So I'll start off with that.
Well, thank you.
I would love if you could talk a little bit more, too, of just how you got started at Ideas Collide.
Yeah, so, I actually just celebrated my 5-year anniversary at Ideas Collide. So I guess time flies when you enjoy what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
I think I've just always been in some sort of PM role, I think, in all of my positions in my career. And, there had been an opening here at the agency, and I'd worked actually closely with them in my past career at Best Western. So when the project management role opened, it was definitely something I was interested in doing, kind of pursuing, just because I like all aspects of that, of the role.
Yeah, which we both have that in common, in case no one knows that. Me and Abby, and I'm not sure if there's probably some other people who came over from the client side to this side.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm always curious, how was that transition for you? I know it's not necessarily a project management question, but I'm always curious to know how other people felt going from one side of the agency life to the other side.
I actually like the agency life a little better.
Me too.
Just more a little laid back. But it's still nice to have the experience both, worlds of each side of the corporate and kind of the agency life.
Right. And so thinking about, you said you've sort of had this journey with project management.
Yeah.
What would you say has drawn you to that? Like, what aspect of PMing do you really enjoy?
Yeah, I think the organization part of it, like I'm like so OCD, like I love organizing at home, and I just think I just love being able to stay on track and keep things organized and keep people on track. So it's just like in my blood. And I don't know, like you always hear like moms are like the glue to the family, and I just feel like the PM role is like really like the glue to like the account, you keep everybody on track, you keep the projects together and everybody focused. And I just think it's just like part of me.
Yeah, I will agree. Cause so being on the account side, I feel like everybody here has some kind of relationship with PMing, like as big or small. It's somehow integrated into what we do. But I always very much admire our PMs here, because there is a lot, especially no matter what client you're on, you are managing timelines, expectations, pulling information from one team to the other, and it's a beast.
Yeah.
How has that experience for like the interchanging of hats? How has that impacted you as a professional?
You gain so much knowledge, like you get the experience in other areas of the agency, and you get to kind of play account manager or play designer or play programmer, but just because you've like learned all this knowledge along the way.
I'm that type of person when you travel with, I make an itinerary. And I'm also the type of person, like if I were doing anything, I'm like, okay, what time? Like I need the details. Yeah. And I feel like that very much is my PM hat. And even though I'm not going, well, I'm project managing my life.
No, totally. Like there are times my husband's like working on a project outside, and I'll like check in and like, question like the timeline. He's like, okay, project manager. And I'm like, I just want to see like when this project is going to get done. Like he makes fun of me all the time, because I really do bring it home too.
And that's great. Like that's what I love. And I find like that's probably the biggest thing too, is for me, I love anything that I can take in my professional career that can translate into my personal one, because it also makes the switch from, working and then going home feel more seamless, because it's not like necessarily you're shutting off every aspect of yourself. Yeah. So you're able to continue to explore. And also your kids will benefit from this in the long
Absolutely.
haul.
I know. It's a win-win for sure.
Probably if not now, definitely, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
I am curious, because I know we have, you're very seasoned, and as we continue to bring in new talent, and especially those who come with all different kinds of levels of experience, whether from an account perspective, because like we said, PMing kind of filters in through all different types of roles, but especially for those who are coming in as their first time diving into project management, what would you say are some of the I guess, best practices that you've learned from, your first take at PMing to now?
Oh gosh, there's a few. I mean, so I would say like kickoff meetings are crucial. I mean, typically if you're in the project management role, you really know that's important and you usually host those. But if you don't, like, it's just key. I think it just really helps, everyone establishing like the background on their roles. It helps save time. And I feel like we're at this time where people like just communicate through email or text or give direction through that. And just because it's quicker, but I think sometimes it's better just to get on a call and really set expectations and roles for a new project. So for best practice, I would say always a kickoff for any new project.
And I think also the great benefit of that not only is like the connection and establishing that baseline, but one of the things that I always appreciate from any sort of kickoff call or even discovery call is the opportunity to get that insight from other people, so it doesn't always feel like it falls on you so heavily. That it's people can weigh in, and then that can help you in the long run with, your other action items.
Sometimes when I get like feedback from the client on how good like artwork turned out, I really just go immediately to the designer and be like, hey, I just want to say thank you again. Like the client loved it. Like just showing, because they don't really get to hear that a lot unless you're really showing it during those agency meetings. So I like to just show appreciation and, recognize them when we do hear like good feedback from the clients. So because we forget to do it, we're just like so busy.
Because you're once done, move on.
Exactly. Like it's just the process, and you can't forget. I think that's important to recognize the people who are involved with the execution and the success of the project.
Yeah. I'm curious. So my question is, how do you approach, because you're never just PMing one project at a time.
Right.
So how do you best approach doing that when there are multiple projects in place? And it almost, whether it's across different clients or even within the same client, keeping things moving, prioritizing which projects need to be prioritized. How do you, within your projects, how do you manage that?
Yeah, good question. Because, with my client, we're running like multiple digital media campaigns. So you definitely have to keep on top of it. But I love spreadsheets, and those are my trackers, and I'm in them every day, and I'm updating them and moving things, to the status of the project or the line item or whatever it might be. But they're like my lifesaver. I don't think I could survive without my spreadsheets to keep me on track to, I think also like reminders on my calendars when when things are due from the designers or the programmers. I know it's in the ticket in Jira, but to marking my calendar when things are due.
Yeah,
that helps me a lot. Or, like I said, we have like multiple digital media campaigns running. I mean, I have a spreadsheet of like when they end and when they start, but I like to put them on my calendar too.
Yeah. I'm also curious too, what has been, we don't have to say necessarily what has been your least favorite thing to PM, but what has been probably one of the most memorable like projects you've worked on or continue to work on when it comes from a PM standpoint?
Well, see, with my client, like we really focused on a lot of digital media campaigns, but prior to the, pandemic, we had other opportunities to work outside of the digital media. And I worked with our production team on a photo shoot for a new Banner urgent care opening. And being able to like work on something outside of like digital advertising was just so exciting because you get to work with the production team on finding the talent, interviewing the talent, making sure that they meet expectations, like going through all the models and selecting them was like so much fun.
Have you always been with the same client?
I have. And I absolutely love them. Coming from tourism and the Best Western background, like it was completely different than what I've, have experience in. So it's been cool. And
that's really awesome because I feel like it's not as, it happens. But I think that because, people shift among accounts and so forth, but I love that you've had that opportunity to be, because mine hasn't always been like that. I've gotten to like sort of popcorn around. So you definitely probably have a more different perspective as well. Having seen a client grow with us as an agency for 5 years, and yourself growing within that.
I feel like I'm like the original OG of this client, you know, like I've honestly been, you know, we've had some people leave, and I think I've been the only person on the account, same guy for the last 5 years. So I think people even use me for resourcing and getting background on the client because I've just been here for a while.
Are there any pros and cons to that? To like being with, probably not as many cons, but what would you say are the biggest pros to that long-standing relationship between you and the client?
Well, I think, you gain another understanding of a different industry, and then just having all of that like knowledge power, like you know so much of their organization, you feel like you're part of their organization, you know, and learning about like how like doctors operate in the building, it's really interesting, and you know like the tricks to working for a healthcare company for a while or doing their their marketing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's just kind of cool to kind of see in a whole different industry.
It is, and then having that knowledge, like you said, because we all go to the doctor.
Yeah.
We all need like medical. So it's also interesting that you're able to then retain all of their jargon and
yeah, I know you feel. And then I'm like, so when people are like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, well, I don't work for Banner Health, but but we run their, we're a partner of theirs where we run their digital marketing, but you at some point you feel like you do just because you know so much about them. But
is there a specific client we already have at the agency, or an industry that you would love as a PM to then eventually in the future get to tap into?
I love like designer bags, so something like designer.
Ooh.
I love shopping at Target, so like I would love Target.
Wouldn't that be interesting? What would be your advice of like how someone can find what best works for them and their client flow or their general project management flow?
Like you said, you have to find like what works best for you. And that might be looking into like what the functionalities of those programs that they have to offer. I'm a Google spreadsheet person. I just like it's live. Anybody can get into it and make updates. Some people like where you can export data, and you could do that in Google spreadsheets too, but you just have to find like what's right for you. You're always going to get approached by different programs like selling you the platform, or internal teams working with different, tools and resources. But it's really all about you and, and what's important to you as far as like the functionalities. Like,
did you always, like when you first started, was everything that you chose in terms of like how to manage your time and the projects and the calendars was what you still have now, or has that morphed and developed as time goes on?
I think it's like morphed and developed and getting like experience in like Google spreadsheets. There's other functionalities that you can like create, tabs and seeing statuses and colors. Like people might be like, oh, it's just a spreadsheet that's like live, but no, there are like a lot of functionalities I think you could like utilize for any PM.
Yeah, and I know I love it too. Like I use it. That's how I plan vacations with friends. We do that so we can always jump in and like update it. And it's like you said, it's such a great, not only project management tool, but I really do think it serves that bigger function too of collaboration, which obviously is really key for a PM across accounts and then clients.
Right. And what's important too for some project managers is that you have to find a tool that the client might have to access to. And sometimes there are some that won't allow you to share access, or you need it more secured, because I don't know how secure like Google spreadsheet is. Of course, I would never put like patient information in something like Google spreadsheet. But it's like security is like another important thing too, if that information, that spreadsheet can be shared or not.
Right. So. I'm always curious because one thing that I encounter sometimes with clients when it comes to the project management side of projects, because it, varies, especially depending on like how much mature or how long we've been working with a client, is sometimes I think the idea of like the QA process, or which is to a client, they're seeing as like, that's more time that we're not going live. That's more time we're not finalizing something. How do you go about in explaining that to the client so they understand like these things are all in place for a reason?
I've been just lucky enough to have a client that really understands the importance and values our feedback and recommendations, I guess. So I haven't really run into any issues with the client not understanding, but I think with just any digital advertising, like they understand that QA is very important because you don't want, the wrong ad being served in the wrong market or having like a misspelled word in some of your ads. So I think we take pride in our quality of work and emphasize how important the QA process is and understand that we are adding a couple extra times in our timelines for that process.
Yeah.
There was this one time where we were doing some print ads for a premiere, and someone didn't catch Premiere has for production and showings, there's an E at the end. And for the longest time, nobody caught that. So I think that's why it's important to really have multiple eyes on things because things can be easily missed. So I think clients really understand that's why we incorporate extra time for that.
Yeah,
process.
That's great. Because I was even trying to think from for new hires who maybe are experiencing that for the first time of how do I best, communicate that to the client without, because some clients are just things need to move fast for them. And it's we want the same thing, but how do we also share there's a process and why QA is so important. And that's definitely a reason. That's a word. Yeah. Premiere is a word that can be spelled either way, but what you're trying to use it for. Yeah. So yeah, that's a great one. I'm also curious if you have, I'm sure in your downtime you read or you listen to certain podcasts. Is there any other sort of, even Facebook groups or anything of that matter, that you love to follow for constant information?
Well, for any leisure time outside of I just feel all my time is devoted to my kids, so I don't have a lot of time to myself. But when I do, I just finished reading this book, called Essentialism, and it's kind of talks about the strategy and productivity techniques and how to eliminate non-priority items and really utilize your time efficiently in your day-to-day. So I thought that was a really good read. It has different people and different management positions and what they did and how they realized that they were just wasting too much time in certain areas and where they could eliminate that and really focus on something else.
Yeah.
And then with podcasts, outside of entertaining podcasts, there are some professional ones around project management. There's the project management happy hour. It's these two women, and I like them because I feel I can relate, and they're just laid back and just talk about the day-to-day in the real life of a PM. So I kind of like them. And then there's Manage This, which is two project management leaders. And I like this one because one of my goals is to get my project management certifications, and they do have a podcast on taking a deep dive into that certification and what that looks like. So I started that and kind of want to just listen more into it. So it'll help, I think, once I get there to take that test.
Yeah. So before we wrap, I do have two more questions for you because one, I am curious because you just finished Leading Forward. How was that experience in the last 6 months made an impact on how you PM or even how you are as a professional?
Yeah. It really just helps you really adapt your working styles to other working styles and to understand those that you're working with and kind of what they're like, because, not everybody is the same person. Everyone has different personalities, and just how to adapt and communicate with them efficiently and respectfully. In that PM role, they really, had you sit down and really think about how challenged are you in your role. So it's kind of good to see that and really get the opportunity to be okay, maybe somebody else can do this, so you can kind of learn something else and more, challenge yourself, just kind of reflect.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that sometimes we very much at work, of course, are in the weeds. So it's hard to sometimes pull back and think about ourselves as individuals and that growth and development. And one thing you just said earlier that I'm really excited to hear more about is, so you're trying to get your project management
that's
certification
on my list that I want to do next, because I've been in the role for quite a while, and I think it definitely benefit me and help me grow in my career as a PM.
Yeah, very much so. And that's great. That's, I think, definitely a great takeaway is just you could be in your position for years. You could have multiple years of experience, but there is always a sense of learning and a sense of further improving yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to hear more about that. But before we wrap up, I just want to say, were there any other great tidbits that we can share with the team?
Always expect something to go wrong. It's and it's okay, you
Yeah.
know? It's going to happen, but that's how you learn. So no two projects are ever like going to be the same. So always know that, like, yeah, we might have these templates and processes in place, but always expect things to be different with one project over another. And then you don't always have to have the answer. Like, it's okay to like look into it and be like, I'll come back.
That's a very good one. I think we all can carry that. We're just like, well, I need to absolutely know everything, subject matter experts. And sometimes we're getting put into new experiences and projects that are opening up more and more of the possibilities that are out there. Well, I am very happy that you got to join me, because I'm going to just gush about Abby here. I just adore you. I think you're so smart. You obviously have such a great impact here at the agency. I admire what you do. I know we don't always on the account side get to cross paths because we're in very two different sectors, but when I get to see you and I hear nothing but great things. So I was really excited to have this conversation.
Oh my God, no, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun. It's like my first official podcast under my belt. So yeah, thank you.
Add that to LinkedIn.
Yeah, right?
Okay, well, thanks guys for listening in, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.